Associate Vice Chancellor and Chief Research Security Officer for the Texas A&M University System.
I'm Glenn Tiffert. I'm an academic historian by training, but I also lead the China Project, the project on US-China and the world at the Hoover Institution, which is a public policy think tank at Stanford University.
So together, Glenn and I are co-PIs for one of the two NSF programs under their SECURE initiative. SECURE is securing the entire US research ecosystem. There is a Secure Center program that is being run out of the University of Washington. The purpose of the Secure Center is to build a research security community. Secure Analytics, the second program under Secure, has the mission of building a analytics platform that will allow us to understand who we are collaborating with in a better way than we are, excuse me, than we are doing that today. So let's go to the next, go ahead.
It's especially important because research security is, as you're probably all aware, an increasing concern within the research enterprise. How many people in this room have research security as part of their portfolio of job responsibilities? Okay, good. This is a new audience then, so you're hearing about this for the first time. How many of you are in research administration or in your libraries? Okay, then who are you? Well, let me give a little background and then we'll launch into our slides. You know, obviously the international environment, for anyone who picks up the newspapers, you're aware that it's becoming much more complex. And the considerations that go into even basic research, let alone applied research, are also getting more complex to manage. As we're beginning to work with partners around the world that are not our traditional allies, but they have a lot to offer because they have incredibly deep talent bases. They bring a lot to the table, and for all the right reasons, we want to work with them. But it's a more complicated set of considerations that come into play than working with our traditional partners. And so we need to build tools, concepts, data sets to help people manage these more complex environments, because the really light touch research governance frameworks that worked for Canada, Japan, Germany, the UK may not be fit for purpose when you apply them to China. Or, and much to everyone's surprise, Iran's #1 international research partner is the United States. And you can imagine how complex that is this week. And so we need to build the capability to manage these things well. And our government, and also the governments of our closest partners, are beginning to change expectations of how we operate in this environment. And so that's the goal for Secure Analytics, to create tools and data sets and concepts to help you manage within the bounds of institutional autonomy and academic freedom your exposure to international collaboration risks, so you can do the research that you want to do, solve the problems that you want to solve, and also sort of keep you within compliance of the emerging frameworks that governments are imposing. So.
All right, can we have the next slide, please? I just want to give you a little bit of background on what the challenges are that, that we see in the problem set that we're trying to solve. I've been the Chief Research Security Officer at Texas A&M, or the A&M system, so 12 universities, 8 state agencies, since 2016, which predates any federal government requirement by 3 years. So performing this job in a large R1 university system, 35,000 faculty members, 170,000 students, I think really gives us the perspective to contribute to a solution that we feel is going to be a game changer for academia, and we'll get into the details. But you know, what has become apparent to me over the 10 years that I've been doing this is that the things that have been our greatest strengths in academia, openness, international collaboration, transparency, reciprocity, all of those things that are our greatest strengths have become our biggest vulnerabilities. And that is the challenge that is forefront in our mind as we build this platform through Secure Analytics. How do we solve the problem? How do we understand who we're collaborating in a more effective manner so that international collaboration can continue? So that's our focus. That's the way we're approaching this challenge. And you know, there are a lot of things that are folded into that. Global collaboration, that has to be at the forefront of any solution that we work on. We need to ensure that the solutions we're developing facilitate open scholarship, but also provide international or institutional accountability. And I think the NSF-funded Secure Analytics program, which is a product of the CHIPS and Science Act, is doing just that. Glenn?
You know, it's critical for us too, in addition to what Kevin said, it's to empower the researcher. We want to facilitate collaboration, and there's so much uncertainty now in the environment about what it's okay or safe to do and what it isn't that we're afraid people are holding back from collaborations that they might otherwise pursue. A second thing that we want to be sure of is that everything we do is evidence-based, not anecdote-based, not fear-based, because fear-based policy, fear-based decisions don't make good decisions or good policy. And it's especially important not to stigmatize groups within our research community as we do this. So we're constantly in conversation with segments of the community that are particularly exposed to changes in policy or perceptions of risk to ensure that we do this in a way that's attentive to their sensitivities and concerns. And again, you know, the goal is to ensure that we take care of open science, which is a global commons. And like any global commons, it requires sort of responsible stewardship to ensure that it survives and is sustainable.
Okay, next slide, please. So I mentioned the problem we're addressing, you know, global collaboration. We're trying to establish a baseline for high-risk activity and provide research security officers and others within the academic community something that's much better than the manual due diligence processes that we have today, which are inconsistent and not scalable. So.
Yeah, and so one of the things we're doing is we're integrating very large data sets in partnership actually with the sponsor of this conference, Elsevier. Using the Scopus data set because it's really the best-in-class bibliometric data set that I think exists for anyone to work with. And we're developing very sophisticated AI agents to help us render the data within those data sets tractable. It's not just bibliometric data sets we're looking at patent data sets, we're looking at corporate records to build a platform that will be available to the entire academic community, that will be responsive to their risk preferences and risk tolerances because one institution's choices may be a little bit different than another's. And this platform, which we're calling Argus, will be available to all.
Okay, next slide. So the structured way we are approaching this is analyzing, protecting, and training. So as Glenn mentioned, I believe we're using open source data sets that span publications, patents, investments. We are casting a broad net for data sets and pulling them into the Argus platform. And everything is designed to allow us to understand who we're collaborating with, who our collaborators are collaborating with, what organizations they're associated with, and what the networks are behind those associations. And then also to be able to do the same thing with the funding side of these collaborations. And that is all designed to allow us to really put users in the position to make risk-informed decisions so that mitigating measures can be implemented and international collaboration continues.
You know, one of the superpowers of this team, I've already mentioned Elsevier and the incredible data and analytics capacity that they're contributing to this effort. Kevin's spoken very modestly about how he built really the best-in-class research security program at a US university system before anyone ever asked him to. And it has become the go-to model for practitioners who are trying to build programs to sort of become compliant with NSPM 33, which is a new federal guideline that is forcing institutions that take $50 million or more in federal funding to create a research security program. Over at the Hoover Institution, we specialize in geopolitical risk. And so we've got analysts on staff dedicated full-time to secure analytics who are area and language specialists in countries of concern, namely China, Iran, the Gulf region, and Russia as well, to understand the larger geopolitical context, the larger ambitions of those countries in science and technologies. For example, China just adopted a 5-year plan. What will flow from that? What sort of new version of Made in China will we see? Our analysts are tracking all of this real time, and they're feeding it into the platform that we're building so that we do this and you don't have to. And simply we surface those analytics and information for the clients, the consumers at universities, to help them make the decisions that they need to make.
There we go.
We are.
Yeah, Glenn mentioned a few of the partners and what they bring to the secure analytics effort. And this is really something that we're proud of because it's unique and it's going to make a huge difference in the way we conduct research security from this point forward. We have brought together deep domain knowledge in research security from Texas A&M and the University of Pittsburgh. Glenn mentioned what the Hoover Institution brings to the table. Finch AI, our development partner, has extensive experience in bringing AI-based products to market. And then finally, Elsevier brings gold standard data together. Each one of those organizations is a powerhouse in their own right, but what is impressive about what we're doing with secure analytics is that the sum is so much, or the whole is so much greater than the sum of the parts. I mean, this really has the potential to be a game changer.
Maybe the next slide, please. Or actually, we'll take a look at this screenshot from the demo of the beta version that we're developing right now, which allows you to take a look at an institution that is a restricted entity. It's on the US government's Department of War 1286 list, for those of you that might be familiar. These are institutions that are regarded as posing a foreign policy risk to the United States. This particular institution is one of the so-called 7 sons of national defense, which is managed by not just the Ministry of Education in China, but also an institution that's essentially devoted to military modernization. And the mandate of this and the other 7 Sons University really is to take the best of science and technology, and they're among China's best universities because they're extremely well-resourced because of that mission, and then to develop military applications, jet fighters, hypersonics, military communications. And these institutions present themselves internationally and collaborate internationally very broadly. And you can imagine that that raises tremendous concerns among governments, not just the United States. And so here we've developed really good data sets to help you understand how this university spends its time, who its faculty's networks of collaboration are, the funding sources that come from them, which restricted party lists they're on within the United States, so that you can sort of wend your way through decisions. And faculty members who might say, well, gee, I want to work with someone who's affiliated with this university because they're the best person in the world for this project I have in mind, you can sit down and have a conversation with them about the particular data evidence-based concerns that might arise to ensure that you stay compliant. And we are able to do this across really thousands of institutions around the world. And we are also able to do it, at the level of the lab too. So it's really the power of the analytics is underneath this is extremely, I think, game-changing.
So we'll bring it home here. You know, Argus is going to be a workflow-ready analytics platform that will convert research security signals into explainable, auditable, and actionable decisions, all in support of continued international collaboration. And we are laser focused right now on a July delivery date. So within the next 12 weeks or so, we should have the first Argus product out for the user community to begin using. Glenn?
Yeah, and we have our partners from Elsevier here at various tables, our team member from Finch over there if you have any questions. But this thing is real. It's under active development. We're demoing it to select partners. And the goal is not just to help the US research enterprise, but you know, there's tremendous international interest in what we're doing. And so the Argus will help all of you satisfy your international partners who are building their own frameworks for research and knowledge security, that American institutions and American researchers are handling their research responsibly. Because increasingly, it's not just the US government, but it's the British government, the European Union, that's imposing their own requirements, and will start asking US institutions, like, are you attentive to this? Are you ensuring that when we work with you, that our data, our technologies, our intellectual property is not going to leak out to parties that we're concerned about? And so there's a very important way in which we do this all collectively to, again, preserve that open science commons that has been so valuable to all of us. Thanks.